Hi, and welcome to CAWcreations. I am Cheryl Ann Wortman, Cheryl Can on Instagram and Ravelry, and Cheryl Ann at CAWcreations.org if you would like to email me. Welcome back. It's September 17th, Sunday, and I'm grabbing the time when I can to record. So grab your cuppa and we'll get started. My cuppa has tea in it, tea by my friend Bay Woodyard of Honey Pies and Herbals. This is called the Blues Tea. It's chamomile, borog, St. John's wort, thyme, mint, and it's amazing. I just love it. Bay grew up here in Prince Edward Island and has moved to Prince Edward County, Ontario, and she sells under Honey Pies and Herbals, and I'll put her link here if you're interested in looking at her stuff. So let's get started. I actually have a finished object today. I finally finished my Apple Blossom socks by Curious Handmade, Helen Stewart. I love them. They're so soft and squishy, and the pattern is so nice, and the shape of the sock looks so good. I find sometimes the shape of my socks is funny, and I've been playing with figuring out what's going on with them. But these are my second pair of socks for my box of socks, which doesn't bode well for me finishing the entire box of socks this year. However, I do have a bunch of hose or half-finished objects where I have one sock done for the pair for me. So hopefully I'll get there. Actually, no, I have 3 pairs done because I have 1 pair sitting out at Fleece and Harmony as a display, and I forgot about them because they're not actually in my box right now. So that's a finished object. I have 2 hose or half-finished objects. I have this one, which is another sock with the Fleece and Harmony yarn. I can't remember the colorway name. Jennifer of Fleece and Harmony dyed up a number of colors for different lighthouses around Prince Edward Island this year, and the lighthouses sold them. So I call this crab cakes because she wasn't pleased with the color and said it looked like crab cakes. But when you knit it up, it doesn't. I like it. I really like the color. I'll put the real colorway down here. And then I just use the natural color for the heels, toes, and cuff. But I think pine cone would have went really, really well. Pine cone's one of my favorite colors that they dye. It's so beautiful and tonal. Here's another pair of socks I have in the pine cone, and I just love the colors. These are for my son, who's got way too big of feet. But anyway, I like those. So I've been, like I said, I've been playing around with the heels. I like Helen's pattern, and so I have different heels on every pair of socks I've done here. These are the regular size heels with different sizes of needles. These heels have a bunch of extra rows on them, and they fit really nice for someone with a bit of a high instep. So it's really fun to look at to see how different socks you can play with them to get them to fit differently. I have another hoe or half-finished object. It's knitter's mitts. They're by Heidi Wulfraat. I'm sure I've said that wrong. She's in New Brunswick, Canada. I've made a purple pair of these already. This is alpaca. It's fingering weight. I absolutely love it. It feels so soft and squishy. And I didn't weave in all my ends, obviously. But I love these patterns. They're just, it's out of a really light fingering yarn, but it keeps your wrists and hands warm on cold days, and you can still fit your big mitts over them. So I love these for the winter time. So I can't wait to finish the other one of those. So what else have I been working on? I've been working on my sweater. I know I keep saying I just have a few more rounds until I start the yoke, and then I'll be finished with my sweater. And as my friend Moira from Knitting and Stitches reminded me, it's only 30 days till Knit East, and I have to finish my sweater for Knit East, my second sweater for Knit East, and my shawl for the shawl exchange. I think I might be a little behind. I'm kind of slow. I should stop casting on new things because I've cast on a bunch of new things. Not a good idea when you're trying to finish old things that you should have been casting on. So So yeah, this is my sweater. It's Tin Can Knits design. It's the Ironheart design of the Heart on My Sleeves sweater. If you've been watching this, you've seen it before. It's done in Knit Picks gloss in the DK weight, and this is the cranberry colorway. So I'm loving knitting this. I just have to get it done. It's at that point where I'm gonna have to start following the chart, and that's what I've kind of been avoiding. So that's why I'm sitting here knitting this today, just because I figure if I knit it on the podcast, maybe I'll actually finish it and get to the point where I attach the arms and start doing the yoke. Because historically, I worry about things, and as soon as I start doing them, I'm like, why'd I worry about that? It wasn't nearly as hard as I thought it was going to be. But I still worry. Sweater done. I've got to get the shawl done for the shawl exchange. And there's a bunch of other things I got to get done. Talking about my shawl, I probably shouldn't tell you a whole lot about it because I don't want my exchange partner to know it's for them. So I'm just going to show you the pretty colors. I'm using Bayview Fiber Arts yarn, which is Paula's yarn that I love. I absolutely adore it. So I'm using Cleopatra in the Snow. Look how beautiful that is. And I'm using Pansy. And I'm using, shoot, I can't remember this color. Gloria or Hallelujah? Oh dear. That's why you should have notes when you podcast. Oops. So I should not be doing things on the fly. And it's a beautiful pattern. I'll tell you all about the pattern after we do the exchange. And you can see the colors look so good together. And what I decided to do was put the white between each of the really bright color sections so that it gives it a nice break. I love the pattern. I love how soft and squishy this is. I'm using those needles that I told you about, the Knitter's Pride cube carbons. I still find the catch, and they unscrew as I knit with them, which is annoying. And I didn't realize how annoyed I was with it until I started knitting on this sweater again this morning, and I'm using my Addi Turbos, which are my favorite needles. I just love them. I have a whole, I have the Addi Turbo circular set, and I love it. I should be knitting everything on it because it's just a joy to knit with, but of course I don't knit everything with it. So what else? I have everything spread out here so I don't forget anything. But of course I'm sure I will. I'm doing a pair of barista socks. We go on Sundays, and that's why I'm speaking fast, because right now I'm missing knitting to podcast. We go on Sundays to Beans, which is a local coffee shop, and we knit there, and the baristas there are really, really good to us. So I'm knitting a pair of socks for one of them. And I had been knitting them in a yarn that you couldn't throw in the machine, and then I got thinking that's probably not a good idea for someone who I don't know how well they know how to take care of stuff. So I went out and bought this cheaper yarn. It's a Diamond Select Footsie. I bought it more because it's machine wash and lay flat to dry. I'd never used it before, and it's a really nice yarn. It's 75% superwash wool and 25% polyamide or nylon. And it's good. I love the colors. Of course, they're my colors. They're blacks and purples and kind of reds, which I really like. And I used the same rib that you use for Heidi's knitter's mitts on the sock. And it's a really great little rib, and it's nice and tight. I made the sock a bit wider because the one I'm knitting these for has a bit bigger foot. But I like it. My mom decided to use it for bed socks for my sister-in-law, and it's just a beautiful rib for a sock, so I'm quite pleased with it. So yeah, I'm working on those too. So it seems to be a sock fall, which is good. My problem is my second sock syndrome. I do one sock, and once I figure out the pattern, then it's like, why bother doing the other sock? So I don't always, and that's not good. So I have to get back into doing both socks. So bags, I got this lovely bag. I love it. It's got jellyfish on it, and it's got polka dots on the inside, the same as around the bottom. And that's where my shawl is living. And it's really well made, and it's got a little progress keeper on the zipper, so that's great. My one disappointment last year, no, 2 years ago. Last year I was in Rhinebeck. 2 years ago I was at Knit East, and I got this Hiya Hiya bag. And for those of you who've gotten to know me, you'll realize it's purples and greens and blacks. It's my favorite colors. And look what happened the other day. I'm so disappointed. I think I can fix it. I just have to find thread that matches so that I can squiz it through again and sew it up. But I was disappointed because I've been using this bag. I love this bag. It's got a nice flat bottom, and it's got a nice zipper pocket in here to keep all your little scissors or other notions in for whatever you're working on. And what I've been keeping in here are my Helix socks. So they're kind of an homage to the Helix Hat pattern. So when I'm doing the sock series, these are the Helix socks. And it was really great to teach me how to just drop and pick up yarn as you knit in the round to get it nice and flat. Because as you can see with this first sock, I made a mistake. Everybody makes mistakes, but I always got to show you mine. See how you can see that line down the side? That's where you dropped and you picked up your stitch. And because I've done intertarsia a lot, I know about twisting the yarn so you don't have a hole, blah, blah, blah. But with this sock, you don't need to do that because the yarn you're using, the next row comes and you use it again. So there's always that crossover. And if you twist, like I did, then you create this line up the inside of the sock. And you can feel that when you put the sock on. So, of course, I didn't want to knit a whole new sock, so I've decided these are my sample socks to show what not to do when you make Helix socks. That's what you can do when you design a pattern, right? So you can see on this one, there's no line on that side. I actually did it right. I followed my own instructions. Woohoo! And with these socks, once I get them published, I've got a friend whose husband has a 3D printer, and he's making these really, really cute stitch markers. And so they're little sheep, and you can get whatever you want put on them. So like you can get beginning of round put on them. This one has knit front and back on it. So he's going to make stitch markers that correspond with the 3 markers you need if you're knitting socks in the round like this and doing the helix on them. So he'll give me 2 that say CC or change color and 1 that says beginning of round, BOR, so that you'll know where your beginning of round is and you know where you change your colors. And you can keep track of your stitches as you're going through knitting your socks. So that's kind of cool. And my big announcement for the podcast, that's what I'm doing, a podcast, is that for next year, I've got a calendar coming out, which will have at least 8 new patterns, 5 of them being sock patterns. So that's why all the socks are out. This is my slouchy bed sock pattern that I'm doing for my son. He likes to wear them around home kind of as slippers because they're nice, thick. They're all worsted weight sock patterns so far. But I think I have 5 done now, and I think I'm gonna do 2 that are fingering weight sock patterns, and then I'm gonna add a couple of my older patterns, like my squall scarf, and maybe add another either scarf or a hat pattern. So what'll happen is there'll be a calendar you can put up on your wall, Thank you, Lynn, for the inspiration. Lynn from Two Tangled Skeins last week showed a needlework calendar that she just loved, where you showed the needlework and then you got a little booklet of all the patterns. So that's what I'm going to try and do with this, because I was trying to figure out how to do the sock series so that it worked well. And I think this is the best way to do it. You can have the calendar and then we'll do up a little booklet that comes with it of the actual pattern. So we'll have the printed off calendar. So pre-sales of these calendars will open in November, and the calendars should be out that I'll be able to start shipping them mid-December. So they should be ready for the Christmas market. So it's a really fun idea, and I'm hoping it'll work well. It's through Fleece and Harmony, of course, and CAWcreations. So that's kind of fun. So that's a new thing that's going on, and hopefully I'll have it done. Moving on from projects to let's do books I've read next. So I read this book, Dark Matter. It's by Blake Crouch, C-R-O-U-C-H. I'll put a picture here because it's hard to see. What a great story. It's a science fiction. It's a little bit dark. It reminds me, I don't know how many of you know Robert Sawyer, who's a Canadian science fiction writer. Writes really great stories where the plot really moves and explains the science to you without coming off as condescending. Blake's got that down pat as well. I loved this story. It's about a couple who's about my age who's thinking about what could have been if they didn't take this path, what could have happened. And I like the fact that there's a couple in it. I like the pace of the story, and I like the way it really goes. There's some twists and turns, and I don't want to say too much more about it that might give something away. If you look at the back of it, it says, are you happy with your life? Those are the last words Jason Desson hears before the kidnapper knocks him unconscious. And that's where we go from there. So it's a stellar read. Just love it. It's a quick read. I read it and then I gave it to my husband, and he read it very quickly. He said it's the quickest read he's had in a long time. So definitely a great book that I recommend. I've kind of gone crazy buying things, but they're not all yarn. Surprise, surprise. I might actually be able to afford to shop when I go to Knit East if I stop buying. I did buy these vacuum storage bags. I'm not sure what they'll be like yet. I got them to send a package up north. Somebody wanted some yarn, so I'm mailing that up, and when you send a big package, it costs a lot. So I'm thinking if I vacuum pack it, it should be easier to mail, cheaper to mail. So I'll try them. These are mainstays. I got them at Walmart of all places, but they seem to be the most economical place to get them. And this is what a friend of mine had suggested, trying to save a bit of money on the shipping. So we'll see how they work. The other thing I got was something I got out at Fleece and Harmony for my cousin. She wanted them. They cost $13. There's 60 opening colored stitch markers in here, and I love them. They're stitch markers. They open just like a safety pin. I'll put a picture, a close-up up here, but they're great little stitch markers. I'm recording. You're good? Hello, and welcome to CAWcreations. My name is Cheryl Ann Wortman. I'm Cheryl Can on Instagram and Ravelry. And CawCreations.org. If you want to email me directly. Welcome. Today is Sunday, September 17th, I think. Yes, September 17th. I'm just podcasting as quickly as I can. I apologize for the, oh, look at that, he's done.